Don't look at all the other things. Don't look at my messy desktop. That can be the very beginning of the recording. Let's see. So I've got this handy dandy list of all the things that are happening. And the first is just talking about like where we are. So if you weren't sure, we are here in this green space that adjuncts Shiva Park on one side and Pritchard Beach on the other side. And you can see that we also adjunct the Lake Washington. And we have a very long name, Rainier Beach Urban Farm and Wetlands, because we're not just a farm, we're also a wetland restoration site. And we have multiple wetlands. Can you see my like little arrow as I move it around? Cool.
Yes.
So in this area here, we have what we call a wetland forest, and then this area here we call the Northwest Forest because it's a little bit more dry. And these are areas that we've been doing restoration work for over 10 years to introduce native species, trees, shrubs, and berries and herbs, and removing invasives. And this green space with it's going along the middle of the farm, that's a wetland channel that's filled with willow trees, and that's taking runoff water from Cloverdale and the neighborhood north. And the hope is that as the water goes, this like runoff street water goes through our wetland, by the time it gets out to the lake, it's healthier and happier. So that's one of our goals and missions, is to be a restoration site as much as we are a farm and community hub for food and all things food and growing food. So I'm going to talk kind of fast because we don't have a ton of time. I'm just going to list out a bunch of stuff and then introduce my colleagues to give a little bit more. There's a lot more areas of the farm. We have the wetlands, we have propagation fields. That's where we grow our vegetables for a farm stand, a CSA, and we grow food for community organizations as well. We have a learning farm, which is basically the area of the farm that we're growing for educational programming and for the general community. We have a U-Pick, as that's something you might not all know. It's free and it's open to anyone to come. Anytime we're open, you can come in, pick whatever's in season, and take it home. We just got a little kiosk for it, and soon we'll have tools and bags for people to take home their veggies. We have an orchard. We have a Four Sisters milpa, like a Three Sisters garden. We have a pumpkin patch, a flower garden, and an apiary, which David can talk more about because David's also one of our beekeepers. And that covers the 10 acres. So I'm going to hand it over to David, as he's one of our co-chairs, and to give us some more insight on the history and context of the farm, while I let you look at pictures of the farm on Instagram. Yay!
Thanks, Daniella. And if you've been to the farm, then you might recognize my virtual background. That's actually the farm a couple of years ago, before we shut down during the pandemic and after we reopened. But to give you some bit of history and context for those of you who don't know, so the farm has actually been around now officially for 10 years, but we actually started the concept for the farm back in 2009. For those of you who've been living in the neighborhood for a while, you might remember that space used to be the Atlantic City Nursery, which is the Parks Department's property, and it used to be a propagation farm and nursery for their parks. And of course, during the recession, it closed down, and they were looking to repurpose it. And I'm, as Danielle said, I'm one of the co-chairs along with Sue Gibbs. And Sue and I are, and actually there's Sue in the yellow there. She and I are a group of the original founders of the farm, under our leadership of the former who's now passed, Harry Hoffman, who some of you may know or know his name, along with Peter Masandiri and his wife, who passed, Yolanda Masandiri Gill, and others. And in 2009, we came together actually as neighbors. We all lived in the neighborhood, and many of us still do, to look at what could be done with that property. And it was Harry and Peter's vision really that brought together the neighbors to say, hey, let's propose a urban farm. And through that process, the Parks Department put out an RFP for repurposing. And at the time then, what we were then the Friends of Atlantic City Nursery, because it was before the farm, reached out to then Seattle Tilth, now Tilth Alliance, to become our partner in a proposal to the city parks. And as a result of that, we were granted operatorship of the property, which we now co-operate together now 10 years later. And we came together really as part of the vision, as you know, as we already talked about, as Danielle has talked about bringing accessible, affordable, healthy food to Rainier Beach residents, and to really create a gathering space for all residents, and to celebrate the diversity of all our communities here in Rainier Beach, that could provide education and training, and bring together and connect our community, both through the urban farming work as well as environmental work that Danielle just talked about. And so as some of you may know, the property needed to be refurbished, and we literally used lots of volunteers like you do. We literally had our hands in the ground with pickaxe and forks, and, pitchforks and shovels. I mean, we were tilling the ground without any mechanical work. It was all hand labor to create a space that really, in its first few years, we were up to producing 12,000 pounds of food a year that went to food banks and through the food programs at the time that were part of the farm. And we have continued to just develop and strengthen our relationships with the community and with Tilth Alliance. And so right now we're involved in some other works with refurbishing the greenhouses so that we can propagate more plants and grow more food, and make that more available to the community. So we'll be looking and continue to do some partnership development with other local farming groups to make space available through some of the greenhouse works. And we recently, this last year, got a matching grant through the Neighborhood Matching Fund to actually refurbish 2 of those greenhouses. So that is work that's also in process. I'm just going to stop here, but and turn it over. But I just want to say, I think the thing about the farm that is very unique is that we really were sort of leading the way in terms of urban farming and agriculture here in the city. And it has become a model, not just for other neighborhoods and communities in the city who are now doing their own gardening work, but it's also become a model for other places around the country. We've been recognized for that work, and we continue to grow and learn also from the community what's important to them. And as we have been slowly reopening since the pandemic started, to help get back to a space where that will be open more fully and more open as well. I think one thing I would like to also sort of end with is the relationship and partnership we've had with the African elders, who also I want to recognize have been with the farm since the very beginning as good stewards of the land, and to acknowledge too that that space is traditional land of the Duwamish people, particularly the Lake people. And as we know, that used to be Pritchard Island used to be their homestead and their land. And of course, with the drainage of the lake, that's how the urban farm became. That was underwater at one point, but now is an arable space that we really treasure, and we really try to uphold its sustainability. So I'm going to stop there and turn it back over to Daniella and Kerri. And I guess, if there are questions too, we can answer those.
Thank you, David. That was wonderful. I figured we might not have time later, so I just gave you a little Instagram slideshow while David was talking, since I can't multitask and do it while I'm talking. Okay, so that was a bit of the history context. Has anyone ever volunteered at the farm before? Awesome. Yes. Glad to see. I wanted to talk to you about some of the programs that happen at the farm and ways that you can get involved and you can encourage other people to get involved as well. We have a lot of programs that happen at the farm, both through Tilth Alliance and through partner organizations like our Friends group and the elders. So we have, if you're ever like looking to volunteer, get your hands dirty, we're a great place to do it. We have every Friday morning, we have a wetland and farm volunteer work party. And it actually is a party because the Ethiopian elders are with us and 3 of them are in the kitchen cooking a delicious Ethiopian meal every Friday. And it's so good. So it's like one way we get to celebrate and reward our volunteers for doing such great work. Some of my colleagues also wanted to let you all know that we are going to have another Friday morning volunteer work party through the Garden Hotline. If you're aware of the Garden Hotline, they're like a free service that Tilth manages. You can call, email, show up and ask questions about your garden. And they're like plant gurus. They know all the things. So they're going to be doing a Friday morning volunteer work party to work on the pollinator hillside, which is like this beautiful medicinal hillside on the farm. We also have a master composter stewardship program, a soil and water stewardship program, and these are 2-year-long programs. If you're looking to like really hone your skills as a gardener, as a composter, you can join one of our year-long programs that are for the community to basically train the community how to be better stewards to their own environment. And then we have our market programs, and I'll let Kerri talk about that. She runs a lot of really great programs. We have Good Food Bags, which is like an aid organization. We have a CSA, and we have a farm stand.
Yeah, thank you, Daniella. Yeah, so I run the market programs out of the farm space there. The Good Food Bags is, I think it's 6th, almost 7th year running. And that's kind of our main food access programming that we do. We partner with a lot of local organizations for distribution, but it being part of Tilth Alliance, it's not just about food access. We source our produce from small farms as locally as possible, which is really great, and then distribute them all over South Seattle through, the preschools, Seattle Public Preschools, Meals on Wheels, housing complexes, and I'd say about 80 people a week right now are picking up directly from the farm. So that's a subsidized program for folks who need maybe some support to get access to more fruit and vegetables in their diet. And then starting next week, this is the 2nd season of our CSA. So our farmer Sue's, Daniella had mentioned we have some production space there on the farm. So we're organically growing and on our way to certification, mostly veggies. And so you could sign up for a weekly produce box, and that starts next week. We are sold out for this season. But we do have our farm stand. So every Thursday from 2 to 7 p.m. if you didn't make it out last summer, we call it a full diet farm stand. So it's not only produce that we're growing on the farm. I'm doing more of that local sourcing, but not just fruit and vegetables. We have basically a full diet's worth. It's almost like a mini farmer's market. There's eggs and grains, beans, dairy. We've got some really great cheeses and some fun stuff. So that's every Thursday again, 2 to 7. And the intention of getting that market started, it was a channel for some of the produce we were growing, but really another way to kind of activate that space, give folks a reason to come out and visit the farm. And also just speaking a bit more to that food access piece, we, if folks are paying with EBT, they get basically their dollars go twice as far. We accept Seattle Fresh Bucks. And we do have some funding from the city to discount people's produce purchases up to $20 if that helps them out. So we do kind of call it a pay what you can farm stand because we're pretty flexible. And the folks that do pay full price, that just helps support the programming and again, the purchases from other small farms. So that's what I've got. And I'm going to hand it back to Daniella or maybe David.
Thank you. You can also volunteer with those programs as well. As David pointed out, you can volunteer if like Fridays aren't good, you want to do Saturdays, but you want to do some farm work first and third Saturday, you can volunteer. You can also volunteer with the Good Food Bag program and the farms. Eventually the farm stand often takes volunteers as well, so you can help set up a farm stand. It's really fun and really beautiful. And sometimes you might be able to take home some like flowers that didn't get sold. It's really nice. Another program that we've got is our community education. So I wanted to talk to you about that. My bird is currently eating my noodles. So we have adult garden education. Who of you are gardeners? If you're a gardener and you think to yourself, man, my tomatoes aren't going so great right now, Tilth Alliance has so many garden classes. They've been online this past year. Some of them are going to start to go back in person, so we might be having some garden classes at the farm, but otherwise there's still a lot of them online, and they're sliding scale to be more accessible. We have spots open for free for a certain number of BIPOC community members as well. So we're trying to be as accessible as possible so that everyone can take a class and learn how to grow food themselves. We also have a children's education program. So if you've got little kids in your life, we have summer camp, we have after school camps, both at Rainier Beach and up in the Wallingford area at the Good Shepherd Center. We have a youth employment program. So if you have teenagers in your life between the ages of 14 and 18, we're actually in the process of hiring our summer youth stewards. So please spread the word if you have any teenagers in your life. We're looking to hire, I think, up to 10 youth stewards. And Sue's, our farm manager, manages that program, and she's an amazing young woman of color. She's the child of Ethiopian immigrants, so the young teenagers of the community get to learn from a Black woman who's an amazing farmer and grows everything that we grow at the farm, and that's like really priceless. We also have our community kitchen program, which I run, and we've been doing that online. We've been doing cook-alongs, and I would love to see any of y'all join our cook-alongs, and hopefully soon are back to having community kitchen dinners. Do any of you like to cook or want to be better at cooking? I mean, we all could be better, right? So I've been working on this food waste prevention guide, and it's this 20-page booklet on all the tips, tricks, recipes that we can employ to waste less and save more of the food that we bring home. I think we're all guilty of bringing home a bunch of beautiful vegetables and produce, and then at the end of the week realizing that we didn't use that beautiful thing and it ends up in the compost. So I wrote this guide to support the Good Food Bag program, and it's getting translated into 8 languages plus English. So we're really excited about that, and we'll have it at the farm. Anyone can pick it up, bring it home. And if you want to join us for a really fun event, we have an event on June 25th. It'll be virtual. We're calling it a cook-along bingo challenge. So I've actually, let's see if it's on the website yet. I made a bingo card, and on the bingo card has like a bunch of different tips to do food waste prevention, like use your leftovers, use something from the back of the fridge, use up the last of something, use a can of beans. And so you have this bingo card, and your challenge is to make a meal and try to get a bingo, try to use as many of the things as possible. And we have a really amazing master chef who's going to be joining us to like guide the process and inspire us and give us some tips and wisdom as we go along. It doesn't look like it's up on the website yet, so I will send an email out when it is, because it might just be, it should be there by the end of the day tomorrow. But wanted to let you all know about that, because I'm really excited. And I started an Instagram. If any of you are on Instagram, on Facebook, we're there. You can check us out. And also we are going to have a harvest festival or a farm festival at the end of the summer. And we would love to see you there as well. And if any of you are artisans or have a special skill that you want to share with the neighborhood, we're looking for people to help with programming. So if you want to set up like a little flower crown station and have kids make flower crowns, like, we would love that. If you want to do, anything that is educational and has some sort of farm theme or utilizes the farm in some way, because we are hoping to make this an in-person event September 25th. That's a Saturday, and we're trying to partner with Link to Lake so that we can have a dual event and have people come from Shiva Park back and forth between our 2 sites. So we're really excited about that, because if we have an ask for you, the ask is come to the farm and tell people about the farm, tell people about our programming, help us get more people there, because right now we're kind of a secret garden and we don't want to be so secret. So that's about it. Happy to answer some questions.
Daniella.
Oh, go for it.
Yes, sorry. I just wanted to mention one other partnership that I think it's really important, is that not only are we involved with farming and environmental stewardship, but we're also trying to connect different parts of the community who haven't been. And for example, this past year or so, we've had partnership with the Bridges program at Rainier Beach High School to bring developmental needs students to work with particularly horticultural therapists to come to the farm. So we're also trying to develop the space as also a place for sensory needs as well. So it isn't just that we want to have a farm and environment. So we really want this to be as accessible to all able-bodied folks, regardless of their abilities. So encourage you to bring, your friends and your family, as well as if you have something in mind that you'd like to partner with us on, to just let us know.
Yeah, thank you, David. Man, there's so much going on at the farm. I always forget something,
Yeah,
even though
there's lots going on.
I personally work with the Bridges program.
Yeah, there's so much going on. Yes.
I'm the community education and outreach coordinator, so I'm a good person to reach out to get involved. I see a question. Does the farm partner with any of the schools in the area for outdoor learning? I love that. So I started this job in May of last year. So school is just coming back in person. So hopefully, yes. And I believe that in the past, the answer was yes.
Yeah, particularly at Rainier Beach High School, we've had the science teachers and students come down. So yes, we're hoping to reignite that. We've also off and on had the Tiny Tots
Tiny
program.
trees.
Tiny Trees, thanks. I know there's a Tiny Tots thing too, but the Tiny Trees, thank you, program, and folks have come to use that space. So yeah, we're definitely trying to broaden that.
Tiny Trees is an outdoor preschool, and they have a site at Shiva Park. So they come over and they do field trips at the farm, and it's really, really cute. In fact, they just they were the grantee of like a sub grantee of one of our grants, and they helped to build our kiosk for the U-Pick, and they painted an adorable seed and book free library for us. So you can now come to the farm and there will be a little free library that will have seeds in it too. I may have missed it, but I heard you mention a partnership with Link to Lake. What does it entail? We're still working on that. So to be described in more details as we go along. Yeah. But Link to Lake does a lot of programming at Shiva Park, and we're hoping to partner on some events so that when we are having an event, they're also having an event, and we can kind of cross-pollinate between the areas.
And I would just mention too is that, I think that was really part of the concept for the farm as a green space that connects Shiva with the farm, with the green wetland spaces across on Cloverdale all the way down to Pritchard Beach, so that it's accessible to the public, whenever that space is all open. And we have actually one of our board members from the Friends is on the steering committee. So yes, we're going to be doing more with that.
I want to jump in and give a little sneak preview that in August, our guest speaker is going to be Sally Lee, who is involved with Link to Lake, and she'll be giving an update on kind of what's going on with that then. And that'll be just a month before the Farm Festival. So she may have more information herself on kind of what that partnership looks like then.
Great. I hope so. Yeah, so keep follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, just come to the farm. I'm hoping to revamp a little newsletter. And so when I do that, I would love to share that with your club and have you have our newsletters at your club. I really want it to have more than just what's happening at the farm, but what's happening in the immediate neighborhood as well. Dorothy asks, are there any apiary classes? I love that.
Yeah, so I can answer that. So before the pandemic, yes, I was actually teaching a beginning beekeepers class. I couldn't do it during the pandemic and do another virtual because I also am a university professor, and I teach online, and a year and a half of teaching another class. I was going to explode if I had to do that. But one of the things that happens, I'm generally on the farm almost every other weekend or so, and people who have been volunteering, I often will bring folks over to show them what's going on. But in the future, definitely we'll try to start up some beginning beekeeping classes. And this year we brought bees back to the farm. If any of you have been beekeepers and know beekeeping, getting bees overwintered is always a challenge. And unfortunately, these last 2 seasons, we've lost all our bees really late in the winter. And this year, they seem to be doing okay. We've got, gosh, I think almost 10 hives there between myself and another beekeeper. But if you are interested and you'd like to have a tour of the apiary, I'd be happy to show you around sometime. We'll do it safely so you don't get stung, but it's a very fun hobby. And someday we will have our buff dub honey. And I know that Kerri, who runs a farm stand, at some point we would like be able to actually sell that back, and as well as be able to give that back to some of our community members. So.
Yeah, and we actually just learned how to make willow fences, so we might be able to give a little willow fence tutorial as well. We built a willow fence, a willow woven fence around the apiary. And we have native bees as well.
Yes.
So we just got a bunch of mason bee homes, and it's really exciting.
I had a question about visiting the farm. When is it open? I know there are gates, and I know they're not always open. Is there a place to look? Is there a place to look for what those hours are?
So we're trying to keep our hours current on all of the places, Google and Facebook. And right now, our official hours are 10 to 2, Tuesday through Friday. But the truth is, we are definitely opened more than that. It's usually like 9 to 3. Even though we are technically a city park, we're completely gated because we have a lot of expensive farm equipment that needs to be locked up at the end of the day. But we are underway. One of our current major projects is to create systems so that our equipment can be locked and the gates can be open. And the hope is that within the next few months, we'll be able to have parks come in and open and close the gates so that we can have much bigger hours, because we understand and feel like if we had bigger hours, then we would be that much more accessible, because the gates are open, people would walk in. And when you see gates closed enough, you don't feel welcome in a space. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, since pretty much all of us worked a hybrid schedule. So we have worked from home when we didn't have things that we needed to do at the farm, and we worked at the farm when we had things that we needed to do at the farm, which is why our hours are rather tight right now, because we have the hours set when we're guaranteed to be at the farm. But generally speaking, if the gates are open, come on in.
Great.
And the hours should be changing officially very soon, like within the next couple of weeks.
Excellent.
To be a little bit more like 9 to 4.
That's great. I wasn't aware of that in the works. That's awesome. And then another question I had, for getting more information, is the Tilth Alliance website the best place for people to go to find volunteer opportunities? I know that there was also a work party that David mentioned that's through Friends.
I'm going to drop a bunch of information. I actually would be happy to share that document that I made and give it to you. And that document has like all the stuff. So I'm happy to.
That'd be great.
Yeah, and I say there's lots of cross posting. So the Tilth website and the Facebook page, we cross post volunteer opportunities and classes, etc. So there's a couple of places that people can go to.
Yeah, and the Instagram as well.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you. Does anybody else have any more questions for either Daniella or David? Okay. thank you so much for being here and for sharing what's going on at the farm and the wetlands, and all the ways that we can get involved. I really love Arb Dub, and I'm so glad that it's in the neighborhood.
That's our acronym.
Thanks.
Yeah,
RBUFW.
Yeah, Arbuff Dub, yes.
So we call it Arbuff Dub because it's a lot of words.
Thanks for having us tonight. Pleasure.
yeah. Thank you for being here. Very much appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to stop recording.